I want to make sure we see the seriousness of the economy. I want to make sure that we understand where we're at. Now, we had the Biden administration spending a lot of money. The way the economy has been held up, I want to make sure we understand this. The last 3 to 4 to 5 years, since basically 2020, and really prior to that, but let's just talk the last 5 years, has been the excessive spending by our government. Across the seas, the wars, and the fact that all these NGOs that we're now finding out about all this frivolous spending. What we don't realize is that frivolous spending is actually what made the economy somewhat stay afloat, because we have to spend money for this economy to make it. As we see now, we're cutting, which is what we need, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, once we start cutting, the only thing that actually kept our GDP up, the only thing that kept our economy afloat was the wasteful spending. Once we start cutting that, what we're going to see is a chance of a recession or depression. Now, before we get all upset about it, let's talk about it today. Let's talk about the fact that now the risk of the penny is going away. The fact of paper checks by the Social Security is going away. By the fact that meme coins have failed, even in Argentina. Now Milei, who was the most popular president probably over the world, is now going to be a chance of being impeached. Not because maybe something he did, but something he backed. We're seeing a fall of a societal amount of way of currency. Now, at the same time, we see somebody, something is purchasing massive amounts of gold here in America. We're going to talk about what that actually means. And we need to make sure that we understand where our economy is, and we're going to discuss that today. Also, there was a new report that Eli Crane, one of the congressmen who are pretty threadbare, came out and stated about something that Fauci backed. Again, shows the waste of our government. After all this, after we see the situation with our government, the reason I personally say that we need to quit paying property tax, we need to quit paying income tax, because what we've seen is so much waste of our own money that it's almost sickening, or it is sickening. Let's discuss all this today, and then I'm going to wrap it up with my opinion on what we should be doing with our money. Let's dive into the stories today. I feel the weight of the world on me after that intro. Welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be a little bit more of a dive deeper into economy. Now, it's for our simplistic minds. Again, I'm not a smart, brilliant man. All I'm trying to do is look at common sense. And that's the point of our channel. So today we're going to talk about kind of where we're at, and I think what we're all missing. And again, good things are happening, but I don't think they're happening quick enough. Now let's just, in the last week, let's talk about what's happening. We have found extreme amounts of waste. Just like today, there was a story with Eli Crane came out that said that Fauci basically gave the authorization for $241 million of taxpayer money to be spent on transgender surgeries on animals. On animals. Fauci. And the fact that we're wasting this kind of money is ridiculous. Also, there was a report that $4.7 trillion have basically been wasted. $4.7 trillion. That's more than deficit spending for the last 2 years. That's a lot of waste. Now, the point of me sharing that is this. What we've seen is complete and utter fraud and waste with our money. They're taking your money, they're taking my money, and they're spending our money. Now, let's stop for a second. What runs our economy? People spending money. What if people don't spend money? How does the economy work? Government spending money. How does government make money to spend money? They print money, inflation, and they take money, taxing. Now, let's go back on what I just said. How does the government spend money? They print money, such as the Fed, the Treasury, and therefore that's why inflation has been up. And secondly, they tax. That's why we've been taxed and it's not stopped. Remember that the government makes plenty of money. The problem is they don't know how to not spend the money. But when the American economy needs you to spend money, and consumers are not, because of the way that they feel, because of maybe the consumer sentiment, the fact that they believe that the dollar's struggling, the fact that that they don't have the money to spend because they're living paycheck to paycheck, because of debts and so forth, government steps in and spends money. That is what we've seen since 2020, more than any other time in our history. So now we have frivolous spending, deficit spending. In that way, the economy did not falter under Biden. I mean, like to a point where complete recession, depression. It wasn't because the economy was great, it's because of the amount of money that we've spent. Now, Doge, Elon, Trump. Because we're not willing to keep on spending, which I think is a great thing. We do not need to keep spending. But because we're trying to stop the train, when we stop the train, that doesn't mean it's not going to fall off the tracks. Here's what I mean. Because people don't feel comfortable spending money, because we're not to a point where we can, we're still living paycheck to paycheck, because inflation's here, and the fact that now we see that government spending is stopping, so government is not willing to keep on spending, we're in for a rude awakening. We're in deficit still, and that's why you see such a heavy push from Trump about tariffs. That's why you see such a heavy push for cut. And here's the thing, and this was a good point made by Ray Dalio. If you cut quick enough, if you cut extreme amounts, then you can catch the falter to where then you could balance it out. To where you cut 3% real quickly, or you cut trillions real quickly, what we would do is actually not feel the pain of the fall of the economy, because we've caught the dip, basically. We've caught it because we quit spending just as much as the consumer sentiment went down, as the fact the economy went down because the government is not spending. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Meaning, for instance, let's take it in layman's terms. If we have a savings and we have a massive load of debt, we think we're okay because we have an annual income coming in. So say, for instance, you have a good job, everything's going good, debt's not bad because you have savings and you're making money. All of a sudden, if we lose our job and we have to live on savings, we still have to meet all our obligations of debt. So right now, what we're trying to do is we're going to try to take all our savings and push towards covering our debt real quick until we find the other job. And then once we find the other job, maybe we can catch back up. That's kind of where we're at in the economy. We're stopping spending. At the same time, that's going to make the money stop flowing, which is going to make for our economy to stagnate. So therefore, what we're trying to do is cut as much as we can and tariff as much as we can to balance out the system. Now, that's a lot thrown at you, but here's why I'm saying this. What we've seen with Argentina with meme coins, and the fact that Trump and them are looking at meme coins and crypto, the scary thing is this. That is a speculative currency. What you're seeing is the falter of the dollar. So what everyone's trying to do is figure out what's the next big move. Now, for globalists and leftists, it's centralized currency. It's understanding the global push for a world coin. For patriotism and for American and maybe MAGA and maybe Trump, it's the same thing but in a American version. So you may look at other forms of crypto, Bitcoin, things like that. However, what we do see is the fact that the dollar is still held out there as like, well, it's kind of the redheaded stepchild. Just this week, they came out and said that we were looking to cancel pennies because for every 1 cent made, it took 3 cents to make it. Okay, understandable. You could see that it costs money to make pennies because pennies are kind of worthless now, sadly. So they're looking to quit pennies. Okay. There was a news story that came out and said that they're going to quit paper checks because they believe that paper checks cost too much to mail out to print because of certain papers and requirements. So they may just do complete, direct deposits and withdrawals and not worry about checks for any money coming back. That's a little scary because then what we're seeing is the value of paper money, the value of mail, just not important anymore. Let's do digital. So what you're seeing on both sides of this argument is really a move towards some kind of digitized form of money. Now here's where I want to pause just for a second. Lately, there's been a shortage of gold. And people are kind of speculating, what does that mean? What does that mean? And there's been a movement of auditing Fort Knox. Now, there's a bigger play here. And I want to make sure we all understand this. When you see there's a shortage across the world of gold, and especially in London, there's been a very, very common thread that there's been a shortage in some of the stock exchanges and the gold exchanges. What's happening is there's a monster buyer here to repatriate gold in America. That could be some monster billionaire. That could be some monster business. That could be some monster hedge fund. That could be some government. That could be some Fed. There has been a massive amount of gold coming back to America. Now, one of two things will happen because of this. What you're seeing is a falter of the dollar and falter of every other currency. Euros, yen, you could go rupees, rubles, all of it. Because we've been based on a debt-based system and war and movement of funds and global economy. Well, when you see people like Argentina and America and El Salvador learning how to patriate their money better, meaning they want to focus on their own countries, that is a change in the world economy. So Argentina has done great. They've built a surplus and got away from their deficit. However, what they're trying to do is figure out what the next step is for them. They just tried a meme coin, which was the stupidest decision I think by Milei ever. And all of a sudden it faltered, and now Argentina may have a way to get him out. Didn't work. Crypto did not work there because of the dangers of the deregulated speculative currency that is not real money. Okay? We see that El Salvador is embracing Bitcoin. Okay, that could be a parallel, but still untangible, not a true currency. I know people say, oh, and I'll get the most emails off Bitcoin. I'm telling you, I do it all the time. What's happening in America? You do see a push towards crypto, but what you're seeing is what they're not telling you is the push for gold. The push towards the fact of auditing what gold do we have. Now the question is this: if Fort Knox, which was last audited in the 70s, if Fort Knox has its gold and it's worth what they're saying it's worth, meaning it was worth $45 an ounce, meaning gold is now at $3,000. What it would do is make the gold market skyrocket, which would make gold worth something. Then you could base your dollar back on a gold-backed standard. Then you've changed the world. Okay? If the gold is not there, if for some reason we've been lying on our balance sheets, it will take our economy. It will take the global economy. Now, why is there a big push for people buying gold right now? Meaning, there's a story that shows that the shortage is there and someone in America or some big industry or some big business or our government is buying gold. Now, they've not disclosed how much. I'm talking like hundreds of millions of dollars of worth of buying gold. So what's happening is someone is stockpiling gold, and I'm thinking it's probably the federal government. If by chance we do have Fort Knox gold, like we're supposed to have, if by chance you see gold coming back to American shores, repatriating gold, you are seeing a push to move some currency, Bitcoin, which I don't think it'll be, crypto, dollar, some kind of form of money being gold backed again once more. Have you heard Trump pushing for rare earth minerals lately? Rare earth minerals. That's all you hear about him pushing for Ukraine. I've talked about it with mining. I've talked about it with Canada. I've talked about it with Greenland. Why is he pushing for rare earth minerals so much? Again, we're basing tangible assets now. We see tangible goods, gold, silver, oil, fossil fuels, copper, zinc, whatever it is in the ground. That is bringing value back to money, currency, because you have tangible assets. So now, let's kind of wrap this story up before we move on. There's two things that's going to happen. One of two things. One thing is you're going to keep seeing speculation happen, and you're going to see the falter of the dollar because our economy cannot withhold getting to the next level and to catch our fall from us not spending as much, especially because of inflation. That's why Trump is pushing the Fed to lower the interest rates, which I'm kind of against, by the way. But I think what we're seeing is a chance where our economy could very much struggle. However, there is a dark horse with this purchase of gold. So also the fact of the cutting, Elon and Trump doing this major cutting is a good thing. However, they have to cut enough where it makes a difference. So that way when our economy starts to free fall, then they can catch it because they're balancing out the budget. That's going to happen. A chance for a correction or a chance for a collapse, but we may can catch it. Or we could see the fact that our gold is there. We can see the fact that we're repatriating tons of gold. And we can see where Trump really turns around and says, we're going back to gold-backed currency. Now, he has people in his administration that believe this. He has people in administration that also believe in crypto. So I'm anxious to see, are we going to see the push away from the dollar and do some kind of gold-backed crypto, which I hope that's not the case? Or are we going to see the fact that they're going to repatriate gold, the dollar comes back to a gold-backed currency, which would blow the value of gold up and the dollar up to where it would be, this economy would blossom. What it would do, it would change debts. It would change the way we look at money across the world, and it will put America as a city on a hill. Now, that was a lot thrown at you. But here's where the bottom line comes down to. Let's get down to kindergarten level. We have a fallen economy because we've been debt-based for so long. We are deficit spending, meaning we don't have the money to even back the stuff that we've already decided to pay for. All this inflation and deficit spending right now is not Trump. It is from the last bad years of a Biden. We have an administration who is trying to cut. I don't know if they can cut quick enough. As they're cutting, we've got to make sure that we get the economy blossoming again. So that's why you see his push towards AI and things like that, because he knows that is the next big race for the world. Just like South Korea said, this is a nation upon nation battling each other. Who can get there first? So I think that's why you're seeing such a push towards AI and you're seeing such a push towards cutting, is because they need to make sure they're building the economy up as they're tearing down the government bureaucracy. Now, what does that work for Main Street? How does that work for us? Here's how it works. If you're in piles of debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you've got to get better. Now here's how you do it. You've got to get better on a budget. If you're not making a lot of money, understand, but you've got to find a way to side hustle right now. Find a way to utilize the internet. Find a way to sell some stuff from your farm, your home. Find ways to sell. I mean, if you could if you could sell on Facebook, if you can rent out your secondary room for Airbnb, whatever it is right now, you have got to find a way to start making some side hustle money. It may be cutting someone's yard. It may be grocery shopping for people. There are so many ways that you can make money right now. But you've got to find a way to start making some extra money. Even if it's taking another little part-time job, please find a way to make some more money, because you've got to get your budget intact and handled. Because what I'm scared to see is if we see this economy falter and we see some problems coming with the fact that more things are going to cost more and tariffs hadn't set in yet, so therefore, because we haven't negotiated, some things may cost more anyway, I'm scared it's going to make some pressure on American people, pressure on farmers, pressure on small businesses. Not because of something that Trump's done, it's because what our leadership has done in a whole for the last 50 to 60, 70 years, where they've put us in a big hole. So you've got to start finding a way to side hustle. And then secondly, you've got to make sure you understand that everything is not cupcakes and rainbows. Yes, Trump is doing some good things. Yes, we support what he's doing with cutting. But you have to realize where we're at. We have spent way too much money that we don't have. And no matter what you think, the people that you elect to quote-unquote represent you is not representing you. You may can name 5 to 10 people in Washington that actually care about their people and their constituents. Other than that, they're looking out for themselves. So if they're looking out for themselves, what are you supposed to do? You have to look out for yourselves. You have to start learning how to be more sufficient and sustainable. Now that may look totally different to you. It may look different than what it looks for me because I can have a farm. You may not can have a farm. It may be just simply finding the side hustle to make the extra money, start buying the goods. We have to realize what community and kind of taking care of ourselves means, living independently. We've been so blessed in a nation where we've allowed people to just basically take care of us. Government, incomes, employees. The government's always going to be a fail-safe. We're going to be okay. Insurance is okay. We're not living in that time anymore because we have put ourselves in too bad of a situation where we're in a catch-22. Good things are happening, but they've got to happen so quick and so fast, and everything's got to work out completely perfect, or there will be some corrections and collapse in the market. I just don't think we can stop it unless there's some eye-opening revelations about all this gold. Also, remember, the money that we're spending to give to NATO, to give to foreign countries, that's money that's considered money that we're moving around, dollar bills. Because we're stopping that, again, that's another form of money that we're cutting off, which I believe we should. But because our government and our global push has been doing that for so long, we will feel the ramifications of that. So now this is where I come to one more thing dealing with money. Why should we keep paying taxes? I mean, what benefit are we actually getting? We're not getting any. My push is to see leadership like Trump, how he's saying, external service when it comes to money, revenue service. Meaning we do need tariffs. We do need the fact of people paying to put goods here. We do need to lax tax on Americans because what we see is the waste. I mean, it's kind of like us. If we know that someone's wasting our money, if we know instead of putting our money in a safe, we throw it out the window, and the fact is, when we throw out the window, the wind's blowing it, the fact that it's not going to a safe, it's just flowing in the wind, and it actually is not doing anything for us. So what we're seeing is that's exactly what our government's done. They just keep, instead of putting it in a safe, they're throwing it out the window. We see the waste. So we need to stop giving money to the government. Now, we can't legally stop, but that's why we need leadership saying income tax and property tax needs to be kicked out. Now we see Oklahoma, Dusty Devers, and we see the fact that Ron DeSantis in Florida, you see states playing with this about no income tax or no property tax. We need this conversation to get very, very heavy really quick. That we can keep 15 to 20% of our money or 30% or 40% of our money instead of giving it to the government, especially if they're wasting. Especially if they start getting money from other sources like overseas. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to that. Also, right now gold is crazy expensive. But what they're saying is if all of a sudden they see that this gold can be repatriated and we see the fact that we do have the gold that we think and we do see the fact that it could be gold-backed money of some sort, they're saying gold could go up to $5,000, $6,000 an ounce. It's already at $3,000, which they never thought it would get there, from $35 and $45 back in the 70s. We have to realize that gold is rare earth minerals and energy, and what brings value, tangible assets, is how nations build. That's how every nation is built back in the yesteryears, the thousands of years. It wasn't on some kind of speculative currency. It wasn't on something that you couldn't tangibly hold. It was on goods. It was on things that brought value to the nation. Gold, precious metals, energy, utilities, oil, gas. That is what brought value. Rare earth minerals, because that's what's needed in the AI race. It's what's needed to build the new infrastructures that we're needing, to build the chips. So even the new innovations are needing the things from the ground. That's what brings value. So what we need to do is learn how to tap into those resources, find value in those things to build assets and make our money based on those things, on valuable, tangible assets instead of speculative currency. But what I'm scared of is we're seeing a push towards speculative currencies, and we see the falter of meme coins and Bitcoin and all these cryptos that have not really given us anything other than the few insiders and a few big players made millions of dollars on it. Most people lost their tail in it, and still today losing their tail in it. I.e., look at Libra in Argentina. Right now you can't stop paying taxes, but what you can do is you can side hustle, you can get on a balanced budget, and you can start being more sustainable. That's got to happen. Don't tell me you can't do it. Don't tell me you're too old to do it. Don't tell me you don't have any help. You better find a way to work as a family or community, and let's learn from people like the Amish and say, you know what? If we're old, then we better tie ourselves to someone who's young, and let's work with each other as community and build little co-ops. Let's work together and understand how we could take care and build this independent CSA, this little regenerative ag community. You better start figuring that out. You better start figuring out what you can do for side hustles, because what we don't realize is we cannot look for anyone to do it for us. It becomes down to us, the community we build, and the value we can bring to ourselves. Now that becomes very independent. Colby, that sounds very, well, you're trying to act like we don't live in this world. Yes, we do live in this world, but we can't look for the world or the government to fix our problems. I mean, look at the storms and fires. What have they done? Not really anything. You know who's helped them? People like the Amish. You know who's helped them? People like their neighbors. You know who's helped them? People that have a good heart. So what we need to start realizing is we need to focus on growing the community, building an independence, and working together sustainably and not looking to Washington or to anyone else to fix it. But what I'm scared we don't realize as a nation is we think we're seeing good things from the Trump administration, and we are. Please understand that. I'm a Trump supporter. But I think what you don't see is the severity of the situation, is that the cutting has got to be by not just billions and millions, by the trillions. We're in a $2 trillion deficit. So every year we're spending $2 trillion, really more than we make, more than we take from from taxes. So we have to cut major money. Not only that, inflation is not going down right now. And we see a war on our birds and our chicken, on our food. So that means it's going to still cost more. So that's why I go back to the side hustles and budgeting and get as tight as you possibly can and work together. There's people that come here and they'll buy certain things from our farm. And we co-op, we switch, we barter. Those are good things. Misty was bartering some milk and lard yesterday. That sounds old school. Sounds like we should be Little House on the Prairie. But guess what? If it worked back then, it probably works now. And that's exactly what we've done. What they had, we wanted, and what we had, they wanted. That is how we have to build this nation back up. You have to have a reset. And the reset we need is a very important one. Pay attention to the gold. Who's buying the gold? Pay attention to the push, the audit of Fort Knox. You better hope and pray that gold is there. Has not been audited since the 70s. If that amount of gold is not there, we're in for a rude awakening. If that gold's there, and we see that the government or Fed is buying more gold, that could be a very good thing to repatriate our gold and to get a stockpile to base our dollar truly off of. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this. I know that was a very, very long, drawn-out thing. But when you start seeing silent gold purchases to the points of hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars from someone across the world buying it to America, it's a big deal. When you see the fact that meme coins and cryptos are falling and people are scamming and people are losing thousands and millions, and that's a big deal. That means crypto's not the answer. All of a sudden you see the fact that our dollar, they're cutting our pennies. They're cutting written checks. I mean, you see that MasterCard and Visa actually are talking about tokenizing and becoming more on the blockchain, becoming more on stable coins. You see Bitcoin investing in crypto. There's a lot of changes coming to your money. And what you don't realize is that even though we think some of these things are good, all this is trying to hedge against the danger of our economy that is failing. And that's what we've got to pay attention to. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. I hope it wasn't too deep, and I hope we try to keep it as kindergarten level as possible, because what we need to do is understand this, that it's not all cupcakes and rainbows. There's still some hard times coming unless we cut extreme amounts. And then the negotiations with Trump with peace and with tariffs work. That's got to all happen about the same time. If it doesn't, there will be a correction, or there will be a crisis with our economy. Let me know your thoughts. God bless.